So at this time, I do want to bring up Tiffany, Tiffany Harris. She is the principal consultant for Carmel and Associates, and she is going to announce our very special closing keynote speaker. And I'm sure she has some personal words about this individual.
Thank you, Monique. Good afternoon at this point. Good afternoon. So glad to see all of you here. It stayed around and stuck around to the very end. Again, my name is Tiffany Harris, and I'm so excited for what we have put on today. But I'm also incredibly excited to announce our upcoming speaker. This keynote speaker is someone who is near and dear to my heart. All right, let me tell you. She told me specifically. She said, "Do not read my bio." She said, "Do not introduce me in that particular fashion." And I was like, "Okay, so what do I say then?" So let me just tell you this. She's incredible. All right, she's incredible. She's awesome. I can't talk about her accolades that she's received. I cannot talk about the awards she's received. I can't talk about the amazing things that she's done, despite it being all up there for you to read. However, I will say once again, she's amazing. She's amazing for a number of reasons, which you will be able to find out in just a moment. So just give her your time, give her your ears, be open to what she has to say. And I will also say this, she's my sister. So, yeah. Please welcome Teri Peeples.
She's got me up here about to cry. Well, yes, I actually want to take this slide down because, too much of a preview for what I was about to, where I'm about to start. But first, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Can everybody hear me? Do I need? Okay. I am a litigator by training, so I actually probably could do this without the mic, but I won't do that today. So I specifically asked my sister not to read my bio, not to tell you who I am, because I want to tell you who I am. And I want to tell you who I thought I was and now who I know that I am. So before I start, I want everyone here to close their eyes. And I want you to picture a leader. What does that leader look like? What are they wearing? What are they doing? You got one? Okay, now open your eyes. I want you to raise your hand if you are envisioning yourself as the leader. All right, I'm sorry, raise your hand higher, because if you were bold enough to think you were a leader, you're bold enough to raise your hand high. All right, excellent, excellent. Now, to those of us who did not raise our hand as a leader, or thinking of ourselves as the leader when we were envisioning it, let's explore that a little bit more. And I wanted to start sort of with the longer version of my story, which is really the reason I didn't want Tiffany to give it away, because I wanted to tell it myself and I wanted to, go over it in exhausting detail. But I think it will help to sort of explain, my thinking when my sister first asked me. She said first, "Do you know anybody that would be good for this?" And I was like, "Oh, let me think about it. I don't know." And then she called me back, or we were texting. She texted me back like, I don't know, 20 minutes later, and she's like, "Actually, I was stalking you on LinkedIn, and I think you would be good for this." And I was like, "Who? Me? No, that's crazy." So let's start from, I'm not going to go through my entire life growing up, but I will say my mother is also here, so hi, Mom. So as Tiffany said, I am Teri Harris Peeples. That is my married name. My first name was Teri Harris, and I was one of the Harris girls along with Tiffany. So I attended Amherst College for my undergrad degree. I double majored in political science and Spanish. At Amherst, I directed and ran the gospel choir for about 4 years. I was on the board of the Black Student Union, among a couple of other committees. I helped plan a few campus events. I did my share of partying. And basically, I got into anything and everything that I thought would interest me. So raise your hand if you think I was a leader at that time and on that campus. Well, that's way more than I would have said because I was like, oh, I'm not really a leader. I'm not the head of any organization. My name is not in bright lights. It doesn't say president. It doesn't say any of those things next to my name. So I just thought I'm moving through the world doing things that interest me. And, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. So fast forward, I decided to go to law school. So I graduated from Emory University School of Law in Atlanta. And at Emory, I was inducted into the Order of the Barristers. And for those of you that aren't lawyers, that's something where it's sort of a special accolade where they honor you with that sort of designation. It's an invitation-only sort of thing. And I saw that, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Thanks. Moved on. I had a partner in a moot court competition, and we actually won. It was our school-wide competition, and we won that competition. During that, I was chosen by the panel of guest judges to be the best oralist, as the best oralist for the entire competition. I also helped coach the national moot court team. I participated in the international moot court competition. I was a strong voice in the Emory Black Law Student Association. I was also a liaison to the National Black Law Student Association. But if I look back on all that time, and with all of those things that I did I think of myself as a leader? No, I was just doing what I do, right? Being a part of organizations, doing things that interested me, talking to the people that wanted to talk to me, talking to people that didn't want to talk to me, but just generally just being in that space and enjoying that space. So moving on, I started working as an attorney. And based on my contributions to several case teams, I was frequently asked to work with some of the most difficult partners, which on the one hand is a curse, but on the other hand is a gift because they think you can actually handle it. I was working on some of the most complex cases, had a great time. And whenever I spoke in court, the partners that were there would first be like, I can't believe you did such a great job. And I was like, oh, great. I can't believe I did such a great job, but thank you so much. And they would commend me on my poise and my ability to convey my arguments clearly, which I always appreciated. But even then and even now, I always get very, very nervous before public speaking. I try not to show it, but I do. Butterflies, the whole thing. So I was often asked to do trainings for junior lawyers. I was actually a junior lawyer at the time, so I'm not sure how I got that request, but I did. I was asked to lead the summer associate program. I, rose through the ranks over the time of my career. I became, a mid-level associate, a senior associate. I had several associates tell me that they only wanted to work on my teams. If I wasn't leading the team, they were not going to be interested in working on it unless someone forced them to, which is a great compliment. I mentored and taught numerous associates, paralegals, like people that came into my path, always trying to help, asking what I could do, tell me about yourself, tell me about your issues. I was invited to speak on panels at large industry events about product liability defense, which is what I do. I've published articles, I've published book chapters in my area of law. I was a member of the firm's diversity committee. I was a vocal member of the associates committee, where I would call out our firm management about various changes I thought would help improve the life of associates, but also improve the future life of the firm. And I was also responsible for increasing firm recruitment of attorneys of color. And I think the latest and greatest accomplishment was that I co-founded a group at my firm at that time. This is one of those big New York City law firms, called the Women of Color Initiative. And that group was a program designated to provide mentoring and relationship building and business development skills and opportunities for women of color in the associate ranks so that they would stay at the firm, be interested in progressing through the firm, and ultimately become successful as partners. And then ultimately, I was the recipient of the 2020 Chambers Award. They called me a future leader. Now, this is 3 years ago, I was called a future leader in diversity and inclusion for North America. So this is out of all the firms in North America, out of all the people that they submitted, I received the award. And it was great, but it was a virtual ceremony. We're talking pandemic, so it wasn't as exciting as if I'd gotten to fly to San Francisco and be there in person and had my family there. But it was fine. It was on a computer. We took a picture of the screen. It was great. And so, but after doing all of that, after looking at my resume and reminding myself of all the things I've done, did I think of myself as a leader at the firm? I mean, in some ways, yes, but in many ways, no. And I think that that's mainly because in law firm life, partnership is the ultimate sort of goal, right? If you're not a partner at the firm, you're not really considered a leader. You're an agitator, you're making noise, you're making moves, but you're not really a leader. So in my current role, I'm the director of litigation for Organon, which is a healthcare company that is focused on improving the lives and health of women. And it's a company that spun off from Merck back in 2021, so we're almost 2 years old. And at that company, I am responsible for global litigation. So I'm responsible for managing all of the litigation the company faces in the United States and outside of the United States. I believe we're in about 60 markets. I have cases that I'm managing that are all over the globe. Except I don't do patent litigation, and also, side note, I don't do criminal litigation, so please do not come up to me afterward asking for my advice. I'm also not barred in Pennsylvania, so don't ask me any questions about Pennsylvania. I'm barred in several other states, which is a story for a totally different time. And so this year, my company selected me to be the Leadership Council on Legal Diversity Fellow, which I've come to find out is a very, very large organization. It's been in existence for several years, and companies nominate people that they think are leaders and that they want to promote as leaders to learn additional skills and things like that. I also manage a junior attorney and a paralegal. I advise teams across the company on litigation risk. And interestingly enough, my boss has been telling me for the past year that my willingness to jump in and help people will take me far in the company, and it's a skill that he wishes he had honed. I said, oh, am I doing too much? Do I need to do less? Because is this really a part of the job description? But it's what I do. I do the most. So here we are. I was also asked to lead the summer intern program this year, and I also volunteered to help build an engagement and practice development program for our legal group. Since we're only almost 2 years old, there are some things I noticed about building cohesiveness and for the group as a whole. Now, mind you, after all this, so this is where we are today. After all of this, when my sister called me and said, or actually she texted me and said, hey, you could do this. And I was like, who? Me? I'm not a general counsel. I'm not even a VP at my company. I'm not a partner at a law firm. Am I really a leader? Like, who am I leading? What am I leading? Where's my crew? Where's my audience? Where's my group? I mean, frankly, I don't really have one. So what's the first thing I really want to talk about today? I really want to talk about what is a leader. So for those of you that raised your hands, I am happy to know that you see yourself as a leader, and that when you envision a leader, you envision yourself. But for those of us who didn't raise our hands in this room, for those of us who didn't see ourselves as that leader, now that I've said that, if I say, close your eyes again and envision a leader, raise your hand if you would envision yourself now instead of someone else. And if you wouldn't, let's talk more about that. So I think that it's easy to look outside of yourself for a leader. Even as you are leading, it is easy not to consider yourself a leader because you aren't the CEO, or because you haven't reached the top of the chain of command. Or maybe you haven't bumped up against that glass ceiling yet, or maybe you haven't smashed through it yet, hoping that happens. But I would challenge you to think about leadership differently. It's not about a title. It's not about a position on a board or a committee. It's about what you do every day. It's about how you contribute to the company, to your family, to your friend group, to your organizations, to your church every day. You can be in an entry-level position, but you can still rally a team to meet a goal, to beat a deadline, even if you aren't the manager. You can come up with ideas and suggestions on ways to improve a process, even if you don't have the power to implement it yourself. So think about, in your daily life, who do you speak to? Who do you encourage? Who comes to you for advice? Who do you mentor? And how do you contribute on a daily basis to all of these spaces and all of these interactions? Because it is those things that make you a leader. And, I look at some of these leaders and I say, like, if you're not doing these things, people aren't coming to you, if people aren't seeking your advice, if people are not, if you're not encouraging anyone, are you really a leader? If you're a CEO and everyone is afraid of you, are you a leader? And if you're the president of an organization, but you're not being thoughtful and innovative and growing, are you a leader? Because calling yourself a leader doesn't make you one, just like not calling yourself a leader doesn't make you not one. Leadership is deeds, leadership is words, leadership is action. So I want to thank my sister, who is one of my favorite people in the entire world, for making me realize that I am a leader and that I have been for some time, apparently. So thank you very much. And now, with my remaining time, I want to talk a little bit about some other challenges that we face as women in leadership, now that I am one, and some of the rules that I live by. So I think whenever I speak to women, and I do that a lot, there's a lot of women in the world, especially at my company, the women's healthcare company, a lot of women there. Surprisingly, also a lot of men, but we'll talk about that later. And they're allowed, they're welcome. Whenever I speak to women, the conversation inevitably leads to all the roles that we are juggling. We are employees, we are leaders of organizations, we are mothers, we are wives, we are daughters, sisters, aunts, mentors, friends, volunteers, alumni, managers of households, managers of our own ambitions, self-critical, type A personalities. And when you think about it, each sort of word that you can tack onto your name adds a level of responsibility. It adds a layer of additional things that you need to add to your to-do list, and it adds time to your day, and I can probably guarantee you that most of you are not sleeping 8 hours a day as is recommended anyway. So I hear this phrase, work-life balance. We all talk about work-life balance. Everybody wants work-life balance. Everybody wants to figure out how you can have a career and have a family, or not have a family, but have a life. Maybe you want to go to the spa. Maybe you want to read a book. Maybe you want to go on vacation. Maybe you want more time to spend time with your children, to pursue a hobby. Spend time with your parents. There are so many things that we can do. And I also just want to put an asterisk there, because I think a lot of times when we talk to women, we talk about being mothers, and we talk about having families, and I think that leaves a lot of people out of the conversation because there are so many people that don't want to do those things. But the fact that you're not a mother or don't have a quote-unquote family to take care of doesn't mean that you should strive any less for work-life balance, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't be respected for wanting work-life balance. So let's also just rethink when I know a lot of times people will say, oh, she doesn't have any kids, so I'm sure she can work all weekend. Or, oh, she doesn't have any kids, so it'll be easy for her to do this, take that, drop those plans, switch it up. And I think that that's disrespectful to them, but it also creates resentment between us, because those of us that have children resent the ones that are footloose and fancy-free, as we call it, and those that have children or don't have children are resentful of us because we're looking at them for the choices they made and that they're able and willing to make. So I just want us to think about that when we're talking about women and what issues are. It's not about whether you have children or have a family. It's really about what is it that you want most out of your life, and how are you going to balance all of those things. And I also think the word balance is a little bit of a misnomer. I feel like I've never been able to achieve 50-50 in any place in my life at any time, not in my relationship with my husband, not with my children, not with my parents, not with friends. There's no situation in which it's always been an equal partnership. There will always be times when you have to give 100% and times when you just sometimes can only give 2%. And I think it's really about being comfortable in understanding that those situations will be imbalanced. It's, are you okay with that imbalance? And if you're not okay with that imbalance, what is it that you need to do or change to get okay with it? My rule, my number one rule, the thing I say the most to anybody and everybody that will listen is no guilt. Say it with me. No guilt. Okay, say it louder. No guilt. Okay? And the reason I say that is because, and I'm going to use mothers as an example just because when you have a baby or a child and you have to do different things with them, it creates this tension in everyone's mind. Everyone is like, oh, my child needs me, so I gotta run home early. And then they're like, oh, I feel so guilty because I'm with my child and not at work. And then they run to work and they're like, oh, I feel so guilty that I'm at work and not with my child. And then they run home and their child's yelling and screaming and hollering. And they're like, I should have gone back to work. And then they go back to work and they're like, oh, my child was crying. They need me so bad. And they run home. And like, what have you accomplished in that, right? Like, where has feeling guilty about any of your choices, how has that served you? If you feel guilty about being at home when you're at work, no. When you feel guilty about being at work when you think you should be home, and if you feel guilty about being at home when you think you should be at work, you will never be fully present in any situation. You are wasting your time and you are wasting your energy because your mind is always thinking about what you should be doing instead of focusing on the thing that you have in front of you. So we make decisions on a daily basis. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Are we going to go take that business trip? Are we going to stay home? Are we going to go drive to go check on that person? Or are we going to stay home? Are we going to stay with our child? Are we going to go, whatever it is? We make those decisions every day. And I would say that we're actually pretty good at making those decisions. It's not that we make these decisions willy-nilly. You don't just think, oh, today I just, I'm not going to feed the child. I'm not going to take care of the dog. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to dropping everything, running to work, right? Who does that? Who's at work being like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. I gotta order things on Amazon. I mean, we all do that. But the point is, if you are not focused on the task in front of you and all you're doing is feeling guilty, you are not serving yourself. And you are not respecting the decisions that you have made and the decisions that you have made carefully. If you are not making careful decisions, then yes, I would recommend rethinking that entire situation. But to the extent that you trust yourself to make decisions about what's best for you, what's best for your family, what's best for your organization, what's best for your company, whatever it is, to the extent that you trust yourself to make those decisions, don't accept the guilt that comes with the decision that you made. Because you will never be satisfied if you're always feeling guilty about the things that you did. So, the thing that I also say about work-life balance is that this is some advice a partner I used to work with used to tell me. Combine what you like to do, combine something you enjoy with the people that you need to hang out with. So let's say you have people that are clients, potential clients, and let's say they have, I'm using kids and I apologize, I already gave my caveat and here I am again, but they have kids, you have kids. There's a Harry Styles concert. You got tickets. Why don't you invite the client to bring their child with you to the concert? Of course, I know that's expensive. We could do anything. Go on an ice cream date. Go on a roller skating date. Do whatever it is. You can do different things, but combining sort of that person that you want to connect with something that you actually need to do. Or something, if you also need to spend time with your child, also want to spend time with your partner, bring them too, right? It can be a family thing. It doesn't just have to be, okay, I have to, 7 o'clock, I have to go to dinner by myself with this person, and I'm taking time away from my family, and I'm taking time away from everything. Bring them too, right? Just think about that. I also just want you to think about the fact that your journey might not be linear. And I think a lot of times we feel guilty because we say, because I took time off to do this, now I'm not where I thought I would be in my career. Oh, well, I graduated with these people, and they're all VPs and GCs, and they're doing all of these things, and I'm over here still, in my lower level position, right? And I think we feel guilty, like we cheated ourselves out of something by the decisions that we made to either step back or to step to the side or not to pursue an opportunity. And again, comparing yourself to others doesn't serve you. And feeling guilty just in yourself, how does that help? Does that motivate you? I mean, maybe guilt motivates some people, but personally for me, it just feels like a weight on my chest. Let it go. No guilt. I feel the same about traveling, and I'll just tell a quick story because I love to travel. I travel all the time. If you want to catch me, I'll be on a plane somewhere for work, for fun, doesn't matter. Love to do it, have no problem with it. But I also have friends that, their jobs require travel, and every time it's like this angst. They're just like, oh, I can't believe I have to leave the child. And then they get on the plane, they're like, ooh, it's so good to be on a plane without a child, without this extra responsibility, right? And then they feel guilty about enjoying the fact that they're away. And I'm just like, do those things, take those opportunities, because your children, your partner, the people around you, the ones that really love and respect you, will respect the decisions that you're making when they see that it's working for you and that you're achieving your goals. All right. I don't know how much time I have because I have not been paying any attention, and my sister has not been telling me. She doesn't know. Okay. Fine. Rule number 2, do something. Anything. Do something. This quote I came across the other day, and it made me laugh, and I think I sent it to most of the people I know or most of the people I work with. I can't attribute this properly because I didn't have time to Google it, but it was by what is called on Instagram, Dangerous Woman. It might be someone else, so I apologize if I'm attributing it wrongly. This quote said, "Whatever you think you can't do, just know that there is someone who is confidently doing it wrong right now." They have no plans at doing it better either, and people are paying them to do it. Please believe in your own excellence as much as they believe in their mediocrity. Do y'all want me to read that one more time? Because I kind of love it. I'll read it one more time. This I wish I would have put up on there. Whatever you think you can't do, just know that there is someone who is confidently doing it wrong right now. They have no plans at doing it better either, and people are paying them to do it. Please believe in your own excellence as much as they believe in their mediocrity.
Preach.
I could drop right now. They're like, all right, I'm done. It's been great, y'all. No, but what I want to say to you is, do it scared. And I know I'm not the first one to say that. I know everyone says this, but seriously, do it scared. What does that mean? Even if it scares you, do it. And actually, for me, if it's something that really scares me, that's when I actually say, you know what, I need to do it. Because why should I be afraid? What should I be afraid of? As we all know and we have all seen in our daily lives, there are lots of people doing things and they are not doing them right. And does that bother them at all? Do they ask for feedback? Do they ask, how can I improve? How can I do this better? Maybe I should do it better differently next time. Do they? No, they just keep on doing it. So why can't we just get started? Do it. Whatever it is, do it. I will say, side note, don't volunteer to perform surgery just because you stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. I love that commercial, but I just want to also put out there, when I'm saying this, I don't mean go do something you are clearly not qualified to do just because you're scared. Fear sometimes does work in your favor, so just put that note out there. But yes, disclaimer, I'm a lawyer. Lawyers always use disclaimers for everything. But I will say, all of the research, all of the preparation in the world is not going to teach you what actually doing that thing will teach you. You can read all the books, you could watch all the YouTube videos, you can write up all the lists, you can do anything and everything, but until you actually do that thing, you will never fully understand and never be able to grow through that process. And the other thing I will say is, please give yourself grace when you make mistakes, because you will. And I always like to say, I think of mistakes as a growth opportunity, right? Like when you make a mistake, what do you think about? The first thing you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not allowed to say that word, but yeah, I'm behind you. Right? You freak out. And then you're like, crap, what do I do? How do I fix it? Who do I talk to? How do I get through this? And then after it's all resolved, what's the first thing everyone says? And I will just say it, I'll never do that again. And that is the best teacher. Learning from your mistakes will teach you something that hearing about other people's mistakes might not. But you have to do it first. And then you have to give yourself grace after you've made that mistake. It doesn't mean you're not qualified to do it because you made a mistake. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have done it because you made a mistake. It just means now you have another experience to put on your resume, you have another box you can check off on your list, but now you have another thing that you will never, a mistake you will never make again. And that is what makes you a better and a more effective leader. I will also say, when you're doing something, don't just do anything. I mean, I know I said do anything, but we're going to caveat that again. Do what serves you. If there is an assignment someone wants you to take on your job, but it does not interest you at all, don't do it. If there is something you'd rather do instead, make that suggestion so you don't look like the jerk that's like, I don't want to do that. You're like, that's really not what I'm thinking right now. That's not where I see myself. But, I really see myself as doing X. And guess what? A lot of times people are like, oh, I didn't even know that's what you wanted to do. Well, I'll keep that in mind for the future. And sometimes, you have to say yes to things you don't want to do. But if you have a choice, don't just do anything and everything just to do anything and everything. Make a conscious choice about the things that you are going to do, and where does that fall? How does that tick off the things that you want in your life? How does it get you to the next level? How does it get you in front of the people you want to be in front of? How does it put you in audiences and places that you wouldn't have been in otherwise? Think about that before saying yes or no to an opportunity. And the other thing I will say is, say no to things that do not serve you. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and you already know before when someone comes up to you and says, ooh, I got the best opportunity. It just came to me and I immediately thought of you. And you all know whenever anybody says that, it's because nobody else wanted to do it. And they're like, oh, they'll be so happy to hear these words, they'll just say yes. Don't believe the hype. Don't fall victim to that. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to say yes. But if you have a choice, or if you can phrase your no in a positive way, it will go much further and you will feel much better about yourself. And this goes back to that work-life balance. It's easier to balance things when you're not doing things that you hate or that you really don't want to do or that don't serve you. This is the last thing. It's kind of under do something. I didn't know where to stick it, but I really want to say it, especially for the people that raised their hand as the leaders in the room. When you're doing something, think about including in that something, teaching others and motivating others, and leading by example. Because I have seen people that are leaders that say, don't do what I do, be better than I am, but they don't change. And they don't actually teach you how to do better or how to be better. They're just happy to be doing what they're doing the way they want to do it and running over everyone else in the process. So don't tell someone that they need to learn to trust their team if you don't trust your team. Don't act as if you're too old or too set in your ways to change, but be willing to grow and evolve. And be vulnerable. Show your team. Show the people that you're leading that you're willing, because that will make your job as a leader easier, but then will also help you grow as a person. There's nothing worse than a leader that's like, I've been this way for years, it's the way I'm going to stay. And then we know what happens, like, what's that, Blockbuster Video, or, all of these places have gone out of business because they just didn't want to change. And they didn't want to listen, and they didn't want to move forward. All right, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Rule number 3, speak up. Use your words, use your voice. So my former general counsel, who left the company shortly after we all started, which broke my heart, but that's a story for another day, there were some changes at the company that had been made, and I had been overlooked for a promotion. Now, mind you, I don't usually want to be promoted the first time I start a job. I don't expect that, but there were extenuating circumstances. And I actually had a chance to have dinner with her after she left the company And I said, I just wanted to ask, she's like, oh, we made these changes. And I said, yeah, I was going to ask you about those changes. What were you thinking? What was going on there? And I was like, you knew that if this person was a problem for that person, why didn't you think they were also a problem for me? And she looked at me, and this is a black woman. She looked at me, and she said, because you didn't say anything. It's because you didn't speak up. And I'm like, but you knew. And she's like, well, you didn't say anything. And I was like, that's it? You just wanted me to tell you? And I will say that, I did tell her, I said, you're a black woman in America, just like I'm a black woman in America. And we are very hesitant to speak up because we don't want to be painted as the angry black woman. We don't want to be seen as not being a team player. We don't want to be seen as, causing problems for the team. And frankly, we're used to HR not really doing much about it when we actually complain. And often that can lead to retaliation and other issues. So, and I said that to her, and she's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, so wait, if I'm right, you're still telling me I should have said something? And she was like, yes. So I'll take that to do as she said and not as she does. But speak up. And learning how to speak up takes practice. I always say sort of start with the lower stakes stuff. Like if you're not comfortable speaking up at home or speaking up around your friends about what your preferences are, about what you really want to do or how you really want to be treated, I say start there. And it's not lower stakes because those are very important relationships, but lower stakes as in like you probably won't lose your job if you tell your friend you want to eat sushi instead of eating Mexican food. But I also say, if you're ever in a situation, and we've all been in situations where you didn't know what to say. Like somebody said something crazy and off the wall, and you're just like, I can't believe they said that. Did anybody else hear that? Is anybody gonna say anything? Should I say something? And then you don't know what to say, and you're paralyzed, and the moment's over, and then you go home and you think of every single thing you could have said, everything you should have said, everything. You know what? Write that down. Write down what that scenario was, and write down how you would have preferred to respond. And you know what? Maybe next time, maybe you won't actually do it, but at least you'll have thought about it. And then maybe the next time, you'll be like, I'm ready for this. But like, you can't get ready for something if you don't ever actually think about it, put it down, put it into words. So I tell people that I've had people that, they were in a partner's office and they said, the partner, it's an associate, making lots and lots of money, wearing a suit, getting told, okay, go get me some water. It's like, you have an assistant for that. Like, why are you asking me? And they were just like, I don't know what to say. Now it's like, I would have said, I'm happy to ask your assistant to do that for you. Would you like me to do that about an hour later? Right? But that's me. That's what I would say. And that was just like, I would never say that to a partner. I'm like, keep living. You will eventually. But if you don't ever think about it, don't ever practice it, even if you don't actually do it, you will never be prepared when it happens, and you won't be ready to respond. All right. Good advice. All right. Okay, I'm done. I have more, but I'm gonna stop. It's the final thing I will say is, do not let others use your excellence to cover for their mediocrity. Great. Don't let other people use all the skills you have, all the things that you have learned, all the things you have built to cover up for the fact that they're not doing anything. They'll take all the credit, they will take it all, smile happily, but guess what? It's not serving you. So I would just say, you have to go where you're celebrated, not just tolerated. That's it. Thank you.